Hello, and welcome again to today's Career Chat Live. So, this is a series that we started so that we can give you the straight talk, give you real tips and strategies, and how to navigate the questions that you have, navigate your career, your program if you're in grad school, whatever it is. So this is an opportunity for us to really have those raw, real, honest conversations with women that are either currently going through the same things or have experience that is still fresh and new, and they can share that with you. So I'm excited to be here. I'm Adeze Ilajudo Ghanaian, the founder and CEO of African Women in STEM. I'm a TEDx speaker and a leadership and strategy coach. And at African Women in STEM, we're on a mission to empower women to take ownership of their careers, maximize their potential, and succeed. All right. So every week, I'm going to bring a guest mentor, and we'll answer your questions. They'll share their journey. They'll give you real insights, and you'll be off to the races. And I want to say that this is for you. So if you're listening to us on LinkedIn, on Instagram, whatever it is that you're listening, just make sure that you go ahead and drop in the comments or send me a DM with your questions, because we want to bring your questions here every week. All right. So follow us on LinkedIn, African Women in STEM, on YouTube at our YouTube channel, or you can follow me as well. There's the Illegend Dog on LinkedIn. So our guest today is Favor. Oh my God, I'm excited to have her here, and I'm excited to share her with you. She's an incredible woman. She is, anyway, she's gonna come up and introduce herself. So please go ahead and sit back, and I'm gonna bring her up and she introduce herself, and then she can tell you what she's all about. So hi, Favor.
Hi, Adeze. Hello, everybody. It's so exciting to be here and talking with you about career.
I know this is
Yeah.
exciting. First of all, I want to say thank you for saying yes, because usually when I ask, I don't know what people are going to say, but you jumped and you said yes, and I'm really happy and I'm excited. And it's not easy to show up and, like kind of share, because you're busy, you have things to do, but you're here because you care about this community
Mhm.
and you want to help other women succeed. So can you tell us a bit about yourself and what you're up to, what you're
Yeah.
working on? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So once again, I'm really excited to be here, and I am currently a graduate student, a PhD candidate at UMass Chan Medical School, where I focus on rare diseases. So I do translational research. I study the molecular mechanism of a particular rare disease called gastrointestinal stromal tumors, and we try to understand how the disease progresses from indolent, meaning not advanced, to a more metastatic disease, and how we can find different therapeutics to target this disease to help patient care. And on the side, I'm really interested in life science, like entrepreneurship in life sciences. So I lead the entrepreneurship club here at UMass Chan, and we organize events just like this. We organize workshops to connect people to resources so that they can go from an ideation stage. You have an idea that you're really passionate about, and grow that into a business or a biotech startup. So it's really exciting combining actual work, doing research, as well as entrepreneurship.
I'm really excited about that. I think that's one of the reasons why I was looking forward to talking to you, because a lot of times, I know we had this. I had this conversation last week with Chema. She was talking about, because she had a PhD in Nigeria, and then she also is doing a PhD here.
Oh,
And she was talking
wow.
about how in Nigeria you can decide what you want to do, go ahead and do it,
Mhm.
but here you have to pretty much do what whoever is funding you is doing. But
Yes.
again, the difference there is that sometimes in Nigeria you can do whatever you want, but you may not be able to translate that into the practical aspect.
Yeah.
So when I saw what you did, I was, this is actually amazing, because a lot of people are like, I'm doing something, either if whether I chose it myself, I'm working with someone, but they may not necessarily be able to tie it to what they want to do when it comes to, like, how they want to change the world or how they want
Hmm.
to see their work,
Hmm.
being
Hmm.
used. So I'm glad that you're here, to talk
That
about it. So
too.
thank you for bringing that up. And it's going to be part of a question. So with that said, I'm going to ask you. So again, how do you bridge that gap? Between, especially if you're doing a PhD, even if you're doing a master's, you're in the
Yeah.
lab, you're doing work, especially for somebody that is in the health, or doing sciences or whatever the case may be. Um, how do you bridge that gap between the work that you do in academia or in research or in your PhD program to actually doing that to, in your case, improving patient care?
Yeah.
And one, how do you transition, and two, what advice do you have for people that, African women in STEM, that want their research to have real world impact, not like in the
Yeah.
distant future,
Like,
but like
yeah.
even today. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that question. That's a really good question. I think when it comes to real world impact, it's all about solving problems. And it's about solving problems that actual people have. So, to me, bridging the gap from research to improving healthcare to make an impact is identifying a problem that affects the health of people, usually it's diseases, and then you position yourself in spaces or fields that's focused on solving that problem to improve patient care, and it can come in different flavors, right? So you don't have to necessarily do one thing to be in that pipeline. So currently, because I'm a student, I do translational research, and I purposely wanted to do translational research because I felt like it brought me closer to solving a disease problem. And there's basic research that focuses on understanding mechanisms or understanding pathways. And it's very academic because you just want to know more about it. You want to unravel the mysteries of, for instance, I don't know, a signaling pathway in biology. But then when you take that and you think of, okay, patients with a disease that involves the signaling pathway, can I understand this pathway and can I find therapeutic targets as a drug, or it could be maybe a drug, maybe whatever compound that you can deliver to these patients to help them feel better. So that's one path you could go. Another path you could go could be working in clinical trials.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of this research that we do, you need to use preclinical models to test your drugs and the indication that you are proposing these drugs for. However, many times preclinical models don't work. So
Mm-hmm.
if you find yourself in a space where you're doing clinical trials, one of the reasons why we have to do clinical trials is so that you can now test this drug that you think works for this particular indication or disease. You can test it in actual patients, just a small pool of patients, and see, okay, what is their response, what is the adverse effect, is it a good drug, can the FDA approve these drugs, right? So that's another layer to solving clinical problems or real world solutions. It could also be you being positioned in the commercialization process. And I think the commercialization process is focuses more like tech in bio. So, for instance, you design a tool that helps monitor a patient's blood pressure while they are asleep, and you are helping in the commercialization process of that tool. That's another step you can be in. And the part that I'm more excited about is being an entrepreneur. So you can find out an idea usually through academic research. You find out a pathway or you find out a drug, and you decide, you know what, I think this will help a patient or a pool of patients. So let me build a company around this. And there are a lot of bios startup companies in Massachusetts area. I
Mm-hmm.
have a founder friend who basically is changing how novel therapeutics is delivered by using nanotechnology platform that her and her team is developing. So that is like for me the highlight of entrepreneurship and solving clinical problems. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're on any one of this spectrum, I think you are still solving clinical problems.
That's incredible that you said that, because another thing, because I did my undergraduate in Nigeria and a master's degree here, but even with that, I went to school in Oklahoma. If they had like a whole entrepreneurship thing, I was not aware because I was just had my nose in my books. Okay, so
Yeah.
But one thing that I noticed, I think it's like I was telling you earlier, like what I do now is I kind of lead with intention of what I want, and then usually what happens is that I find the people that help me get what I need. So I
Yeah,
guess maybe because my mind wasn't in entrepreneurship, but since I have focused on that, I started finding that colleges
yeah,
actually have a whole entrepreneurship or venture program where they support their students,
yeah.
and actually provide funding for them,
Absolutely,
and
yes.
provide mentorship and all of that so that they can build businesses. So let's talk about that, because again, we had a lot of chatting before we got on
Yeah.
this. But back to people not taking advantage of opportunities because they're not aware of it. Can you talk a little bit more about these entrepreneurship programs that are in colleges and how people can first of all find out if their college has one and get involved?
Honestly, just Google it up.
Well.
Most colleges have it, especially, well, it also depends on the area you're in.
Mhm.
'Cause I was at Vanderbilt for a long time, and I don't think Vanderbilt has its own entrepreneurship club because you don't have a lot of entrepreneurship in life sciences happening in Nashville or in Tennessee.
Mhm.
So I would say, first of all, Google in your school, like, does my school have an entrepreneurship club? Like, you can just search on your school's website, entrepreneurship club, and see if anything pops out. Now, if you want to be more intentional, you don't have to be part of an entrepreneurship club in your school. There's so many programs out there, so many virtual. Um, it could be around your area that you can be part of.
Mhm.
And it makes me want to bring back what you just said about once you have the intention, you will find the path, right? You will
Mhm.
find something. You will be in rooms that they talk about entrepreneurship, and that will make you more interested and maybe search even deeper, and you'll find something.
Mhm.
I also wanted to touch on, you had mentioned, people that feel like they didn't choose what they wanted to do. And I just think if you're in a PhD program and you feel like, oh, I would want to do something different, maybe something more entrepreneurial or something more focused on solving clinical problems, you can join groups and then think of it as your extracurricular or as a volunteer opportunity. And you can build some skill sets. You can connect with some people that would help you now transition from where you are to what you want to do.
Mhm.
So really the world is your, I don't know, it's your playing field. It just
Mhm.
depends on how you want to play it.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up, because again, there's something that I saw yesterday. Um, because I know that somebody somewhere is going to be saying something like, "I'm doing a PhD program. I'm too busy. I don't have time for extracurricular activities."
Yeah.
But here's what I'm going to say. What the guy said was that, have you ever wondered why, like some of these people that you could call like the rich kids or whatever, it seems like they coast through school. And the example he gave made sense, but I'm going to give the example that I know. Like when I started at University of Oklahoma, there was a small, like, Nigerian community, whatever, maybe like two of them, a year ahead of us. But there were like Chinese students and Indian students and things like that. Now, when the Chinese students and Indian students come, the students that were already there, we just kind of bring them in, tell them what classes to take, what classes are easy A's, what classes to take first. Yes, I know this one is being offered this fall, but don't take it this year. Take it next year. Take
Mhm,
this one first,
mhm,
because if you take
mhm.
this one, it's going to be an easy A. All of that. And then they hand them, past question papers, everything. Tell them, because there's one thing about knowing the course and also knowing how the professor wants things.
Yes,
So they give them all
absolutely.
of that.
Hmm.
So that goes back to kind of what we're talking about. We talked a lot, like I said earlier. So I understand that you could be doing a PhD program and you could be very busy.
Yeah.
However, you need to decide. Like last week, Chama was saying, what is it that you want to do? That most people, when they're doing something, don't think about what they want to do with that thing when it's done. So where are you
Yeah.
going, really?
Yeah.
Do you just want to get through school, or are you going somewhere else? And
Yeah.
if that place that you're going and the thing that you want to achieve is so much more important, you have to find a way. And it goes back
Hmm.
to who is going to make it easier for you
Yeah.
in what you're doing right now. I know it may be little bit more challenging, say, for example, if you move to a different country, you're pivoting careers and things like that. However, like I like to say, if you spend 5% of your time looking for who, it will just make it so much easier. You can actually save yourself maybe 50% of the time that you would have spent trying to figure everything out yourself. So thank you for bringing that up again. And now that you know, even if your school doesn't have a program, you can always find somewhere else. And most of these schools are very, very open and generous and are willing to work with you. Um, because again, we have to have the mindset of there's something in it for them as well. Because if you're there building something in their facility, and it ends up being a big deal, they have a lot to gain. So
Yeah.
also see that it's a mutually beneficial relationship. And if you can't find it in your school, go look for it somewhere else and they'll be happy to have
Yeah.
you. Thank you for
Another yeah,
that.
another resource, LinkedIn.
Oh
LinkedIn.
man,
I
yes.
joined. I recently joined a biotech fellowship. It's called No Patient Left Behind,
Mm,
and it exposed me to the business of biotech. And it was free. All I had to do was take a course,
mm,
and that's how I got engaged in a community of 800 people from around the world
yeah.
talking about biotech, talking about medicines, talking about innovations. And I met two mentors from that. This is just LinkedIn. So
Hmm. Yeah,
take
and it has
advantage
never
of
been
your
easier.
resources. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's never been easier than now, really, because
Hmm.
pre-COVID, I mean, there was online, but most people, but COVID has kind of had a shift where you're actually getting a lot more online than we used to before. So please take
Hmm.
advantage of it. LinkedIn is a great resource,
Hmm.
and there are a lot of people and a lot of groups that are willing and ready to help you succeed in your career.
Hmm.
One of them being African Women in STEM. So if you're an African Woman in STEM out there listening to this, join our community. Okay, you get more of this, and you meet other incredible women like Favor. They're gonna help move your career forward. So I'm gonna ask you this one question. So
Hmm.
I usually like to ask people. Um, I'll ask you two questions. And you pick the one that you want to answer. So, what is one question that people usually ask you
Hmm.
about doing a PhD abroad? And by abroad, I mean
Hmm.
outside of Africa.
Hmm.
Or what is one question that you wish people will ask you
Hmm.
about doing a PhD abroad, especially in the US?
Yeah. It's funny because you already touched on my answer.
Okay,
I was
you can
yeah,
say it again. You can say
I was
it
thinking about it. I was just like, how did she know I was thinking about this?
again.
But I'll take the second one, the second
Mm,
question, which is, what do you wish people ask you more about the
mhm,
PhD? And my response to that is, what do you want to do with a PhD?
mhm,
Very few people ask you that question, and very few people ask themselves that question.
mhm,
And what you see is people going through the PhD just chugging along because the PhD program is extremely hard.
mhm,
Right, I liken it as to an example of you building a business, but everything is on you. You're your program manager. You can't even offset some of this work unless you're doing a collaboration, right? And then you're working on multiple projects. So yes, it is tough, and people tend to just focus and do the PhD without thinking, what do I want to do with this PhD? And I've noticed that people start to panic when they're about to graduate, when they realize, okay, I didn't think ahead of time. And now they follow the normal path, which is get a postdoc, and that gives them some time to think, right? But you create your own opportunities in the PhD. When you decide what you want to do with your PhD, I know of people who are currently in real estate designing lab spaces because they understand science and they understand how to, like, what type of spaces will work for a lab, and they did that from their PhD,
mhm,
right? But guess what, they positioned themselves to get extra skill set in real estate, and that's now what they do for their career, right?
mhm,
So I wish more people ask that question because it pushes you to think inward and see what other transferable skills that you gain from the PhD. It's not just a degree. I mean,
mhm,
you're troubleshooting experiments. You're managing multiple projects. That's program manager role right there.
mhm,
You're probably organizing stuff for the lab. that is also program manager role.
Mhm.
You are critically thinking about your field experiments, right? That is critical thinking. You're networking, right? How do you now position yourself for what you want to do afterwards? I wish more people would ask me that question, but most importantly, ask themselves that question so they can make the most of their PhD.
Yeah, I agree. Well,
Yeah.
if you're listening live or if you're listening to the replay, you've heard it. And I'm
Yeah.
glad we're having these conversations because, again, these are things that people don't usually talk about.
Yeah.
And I think I said this last time too, but I've met people that did a whole PhD and they were like, they probably shouldn't have done the whole PhD
Yeah.
because sometimes it's one of those things that just keep going. I mean, there are
Mhm.
all kinds of reasons why you want to do a PhD, but if you know better, you do better, which is why
Yeah.
you should be a part of our community of African Women in STEM, which is why you should join us every week where we talk about the real things, the things
Yeah.
that are going to help you move forward in your career. So join
Mhm.
us on LinkedIn, YouTube, or Instagram. And again, I want to say thank you, Favor, for being here. And I'd like to end with one question, which is like, since, AI is a thing right now, and I don't know that there's any way that we can avoid it. Um, and if for no other reason, you, especially for example, you're doing a PhD or you're doing anything else, everything takes time and you want to at least make your life a little bit easier. So, what is one way that you use AI right now to make your work easier?
So I'll say I use AI in three ways. The first way is searching for papers. So to do a PhD, you need to know what the foundational knowledge is. You need to know what has been done before you, and also what's currently being done as you are doing your project. So
Mm-hmm.
you read a lot, and many times you don't know what papers are relevant, and I don't know, you can read 30 papers a week while running other experiments. So I employ AI for this, especially the one that I love using is called ulearn. So you get the paper, you send it to ulearn, it does a summary. It can also give you a detailed summary so you know exactly what this paper is talking about and if you want to go forward and read the paper in more detail. Another way I use AI is looking for other relevant papers that connects to the paper that I'm interested in. So I use one of the one I use that I really like. It's called. I'm trying to think. Uh, I don't remember what's called right now, but basically it's a it's an AI that would tell you different papers that are similar to the paper that you are reading.
Mm-hmm.
And it actually it's like a mind map. It will give you the notes and the connected papers, and it tells you how similar that paper is, the new paper is to the paper that you're reading. It helps me because I don't have to go manually looking for several papers that's related to this topic. I can just put in one paper and I have a whole lot of other papers that is similar and will give more information about what it is that I'm reading. The third way I use AI is practicing writing.
Mm-hmm.
So, fortunately, or I guess fortunately, plagiarism is a huge deal in academic research. So, you don't want to use any AI to actually write your papers or write anything for you, really. But you can use AI to practice writing. The two I use as Perplexity, and there is Gen AI.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing that's really nice about this AI tool is you write and it gives you annotated citations. So you have this mind map of how a topic should be written with your citations and with a good flow and a good format.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever I want to practice writing, I usually use that. And then when I write my paper, I have a structured idea of how I can write my paper that stands out.
That's
Yeah, those
interesting. I use
perplexity.
perplexity, but not in the
You use
same way.
perplexity? Oh,
Yeah, I
okay.
just use it to, because here's the thing. Okay, OpenAI, if you're listening, sorry, but I know ChatGPT is getting better, but like I don't trust it
Yeah,
with anything like research.
yeah.
So
I agree with
usually,
you.
if I'm looking for like citations, research, and all that, I go to Perplexity because it will give you the link, and you can click on the link and actually see if
Yeah,
it's true.
yeah.
So I use Perplexity for that. So if I want to do like a quick research and I have all these references and I don't want to go look for it myself, I just use
Hmm.
Perplexity for that. I didn't know you could practice writing with
So,
Perplexity.
AI, try Gen AI. Like
Okay.
literally, you just write the topic that you want to
Mm-hmm.
write about,
Yeah.
and it will spit out a whole paper for you. And then as
Interesting.
it spits it out, it connects the different citation, the different
Mm-hmm.
papers, and it gives you a reference page too
Mm.
automatically. Yeah.
Interesting. I like that.
So
I like that because I hate putting together references.
yeah,
It's the bane of my existence.
it is. It is.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. And you're just bringing back, oh my god. So I think a couple of years ago, like, I think it was 2021 or 2022, I don't remember. I did a business sustainability management program at University of Cambridge.
Okay.
Because since I graduated, I love learning. So anything in the US, if it's post grad, it's easy because I know you go to work, just go there, read, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I figured, okay, this is because everybody in the program is working. I mean, there are people in like government, policymakers, C-suite executives, all of that. And I was like, okay, fine. I mean, it was like school. It was literally like school. It was so hard. You had to write, you had to research, you had to like do all the paper, do the citations. I
Yeah.
was like, I couldn't even have a single, like original thought. I'm like, I've been working in industry for almost 20 years. I know what I'm doing. They're like, no, you don't know. You have to go cite somebody. And I'm like,
Mm,
so,
yeah. Yeah.
so it was different. It felt like I was in school. And it was
Yeah.
a different program because again, I did go to school. Like I hadn't done post graduation, I hadn't done any, continued professional education outside of
Yeah.
the US. So I think the
Yeah.
UK, they do not understand. They don't care that you're working full time. I mean, the amount of, at some point, I stopped reading everything, but they give you all those papers I have to read, they give you all those videos I have to watch, you show up in class. It was
Yeah.
a whole thing. I was like, I am not doing a program here, but I am doing a program, whatever. But it was good.
Yeah.
So, Favor, thank you so
Yeah.
much for
I
spending time with
also,
us
sorry to
tonight.
interrupt you. I also just remember the paper I was talking about. It's called
Yeah.
Semantic Scholars.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the one that connects different papers together so you know
Yeah.
which one is similar. But yeah.
All right, please help us put it in the chat later on
I
so that people can
will.
reference it. That'll be awesome. So I hope you've learned something today, and you can follow Favor Akabogo on LinkedIn. Um, follow Desi Legendaga on LinkedIn as well. And we'll do this every week. Every week, we're going to bring a question. So if you have any questions on your YouTube or LinkedIn, please feel free to put it in the comments or in the chat or send me a DM anytime. All right. So I hope you have a wonderful day, and we will continue to bring you this every week, and we'll hopefully help you do more with your career. All right. So thank you and good night.
Thank you for having me. Good night.